From the dugout to the college admissions board, this is where the next generation of talent is forged. Welcome to the Recruiting Roundtable.
Welcome to the Recruiting Roundtable. We are really excited today. As you can see by me clutching my hands here, we have Eric Cruz, the new head coach of Nova Southeastern University down here in Davie, Florida, in the very prestigious Sunshine State Conference. We'll talk about that in a minute, but arguably, I would say, the best Division II conference in the country. A lot of great players, great people have come through this. And I want to talk a little bit about Coach Cruz and, tell us a little bit about how you got to the point that you're here today, from your background. We have a lot of intertwining relationships and so on, and how we are here today in August of 2026 as you as the head coach at NSU.
Thanks, Coach, and thank you for having me. I graduated high school in South Florida from South Dade High. Went to junior college at Valencia, which no longer has a program, and then was recruited by the late Rolando Casanova to FIU. And I played for Kaz and Danny Price for a couple of years there, right? Who were tremendous mentors. And I talked to Danny the other day. I wish Kaz was still around because I know how proud he would be. Yeah. So I went into the private sector. I started working with Anheuser-Busch. And I was with Anheuser-Busch for 6 years. And I moved from Miami, Fort Lauderdale to Nashville to Maryland. And I was just married at that point. And my next stop was going to be either the Upper Peninsula of Michigan or Texas, El Paso. I was getting promoted, right? My wife was working on tenure in Broward County. So we were living, in two different states, but trying to make it work. And we were doing a great job with it because we're still married. And so I told her about the opportunity that was coming up, and she begged me. She goes, "Hey, listen, leave Anheuser-Busch. Wow. Come home." Wow. She goes, "Come home." And I'm like, "I'm making really good money. This is an opportunity." And I go, "What am I going to do?" And her response was, "You can do whatever you want." I go, "Whatever I want?" She goes, "Whatever you want." So, well, I'm going to get back into coaching because I coached with Southwest Miami for 2 years. And then I went off to Anheuser-Busch, and I called my buddy Mandy Pelaez, who was the best man at our wedding. He was the new head coach at Miami Sunset. And I said, "Hey, I'm looking to come back." He goes, "Come back." So I went back as a security guard and a full-time baseball coach just to get in, right? Monster pay cut. I
think so, yeah.
But the wife was happy because now we were together. So from Miami Sunset, I was there for 3 years, had an opportunity to work closer to home where I lived in Pembroke Pines. Ray Evans became the new coach at Flanagan. I went with Ray Evans for 8 years, tremendous 8 years.
Did you guys win a national championship when you were there?
Yes, we won a national championship and 3 state titles in those 8 years.
It's pretty remarkable.
And of course I learned at every stop, but I really learned how to kind of marry the parents, the boosters, and baseball through Ray Evans. And Ray Evans. He's a subtle.
I coached Ray as well. 1993 was his first year as head coach at Miami Beach High. And to show you what a guy he is, and we went to each other's weddings, and we just talked recently. One of his players got to the big leagues from Flanagan, the right-handed pitcher, Nick Davila. And I had a little bit of a role with that when I was working him out and so on as a pro scout. I'm in a very minor role, but Ray's so proud of those types of things. But, one of the things with Ray to show you, his first year as a head coach, we knew at Beach High, I was coming from Miramar High School where we went to the state championship. Never thought that would happen, but we went there. We got waxed by Sarasota Riverview and a future big leaguer, but we got there. And then Ray brings me over, and similar story. I'm selling sporting goods, and then trying to coach and figure out what I want to do with my life. And he let me coach third base as his assistant. He's like, "Mike, it doesn't matter. Get your experience. We're going to win 4 games this year. Get your experience, learn how to run an offense. Here's the head coach keeping the scorebook in his hand at first base because he's trying to help me in my development. We're very similar age. And that was, but that's, you speaks volumes of people you and I have both worked for.
Yeah. And Ray was a tremendous leader, but his heart was bigger than what his voice was, and he had a loud voice.
Yeah, he does.
Right?
Still does.
I mean, what they don't know about Ray was that he used to buy PB&J and fruits for the guys so they had something to eat in his classroom because there was guys that didn't have any money. People don't know that about Ray, and Ray will never tell you that about him.
I didn't know that.
Out of his own pocket, he would do that, right? So, again, learning from that guy. Then I moved on to Nova Southeastern and had the opportunity to work with Greg Brown, who's a personal friend now, right? And Brownie showed me kind of the way this works. I find myself saying the same things Brownie said in the office that when I was sitting in the assistant chair, right? And I'm like, oh man, I unconsciously just absorbed all of these things, right? From Ray, from Brownie, from Mandy Pelaez, JC Diaz, and then of course, from Casanova and Danny Price over at FIU, where I was at, and Mike Kadahia, who was an assistant coach for us that for a year, who was an incredible human being as well, right? And I know all of your paths and our paths are kind of are meshed together, but those are the people that stand out, right? The ones that it's not about winning and losing; it's the ones that change your life as you moved on, and taking a little bit from everybody is kind of what has developed me and has got me back into this chair.
You know, and yeah, we do have a lot of intertwining. Like you talked about Kaz, and you know, my son still talks about Kaz and how good he was to him at the ballpark when he was a little tyke running around at 10 years old in his cowboy boots, you know, that type of stuff. But you know, a couple things here. National championship at Flanagan as an assistant, national championship at NSU, 2016, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
As an assistant. And now you're bringing this championship pedigree over to NSU now as the head coach in your second stint here, but now the guy at the helm. Talk to us a little bit about your transition from winning a national title as a coach, college coach, and you're out recruiting and you're trying to find ways to win a Division II championship, and all of a sudden you're thrust into professional baseball as the area scout and Florida supervisor for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Like the differences that you encountered with that.
Have a plan, have a setup, have a routine, and then you create your own process and execute it, right? Because there's no one over your shoulder saying, hey, do this, do that.
No, you're on your own.
You have a meeting here, you have a meeting there, right? No, I go to whatever game I want, I track them down, and then, you know, you write the report. It was a little bit more liberating because I didn't have to worry about wins and losses anymore, right? That was pretty fun. You know, because the outcomes of games are not as important, right? You want to see guys on winning teams who are contributors and stuff like that, and you can check boxes on that, right? But now you're just grading out tools and seeing what they fit and being able to describe these guys in the new baseball language that I had to learn, right? The 20/80 scale, right? Yeah. Hey, this is what it is, you know, use the whole scale, Cruz, be aggressive, right? I heard all those things in my few years as a scout. You know, so it was an ongoing process and a learning experience. I never wanted to make mistakes. I don't want to make mistakes. That's just ingrained in me. And Brownie would tell me always, dude, make a mistake. Well, so we can fix it. Derek Ladner, my scouting director, says, it's okay. Make a mistake. We can fix it. They were trying to tell me, we need to know where you're at on your development side so they can make adjustments, right? So they would always have to tell me, be aggressive, be aggressive, be aggressive. And I'm like, well, you know what? This is what it is. And they're like, it's okay. But they had to teach me along the way. So changing the goggles, right? Trying to find big leaguers, opposed to finding guys that fit into a D2 system.
Raise the bar.
Raise the bar where I was really comfortable in that D2 system. Now I'm uncomfortable because now I'm looking for big leaguers, right? Derek Ladner, I like him big and hairy. And I would go, I get the big, Derek, but what does the hairy mean? He goes, you know, men. I want men. I'm like, okay, got it. I got it. So Derek is, and forever grateful to Derek and Frankie Damas for bringing me on to the D-backs, because it was really great people, an opportunity to learn, and as close to professional baseball I could get was in that role.
You and me both.
Yeah.
And I'll say this with professional baseball, one of the things, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how you apply some of those things you learned into coaching is I remember talking to Mike Rickard about this, longtime director with, and I met Mike when he was an assistant at Elon, and then became longtime director with Boston. I still think he's a senior advisor with Boston on the scouting side.
He's with the D-backs.
He's with the D-backs, even better.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we were talking to Turtle Thomas one day, the three of us, and we were having lunch, and we both said the same thing. Like, some of the things we've learned as a scout can now be applied to, like, what's correct, like, because you're not worried about wins and losses. You're worried about the projection of the player. What's a correctable flaw? What's a not correctable flaw? And obviously that determines what round it, money and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But how can that apply to the coaching side now? Because for me, it made me really much better with pitching, because I had no background in pitching, and I learned, you're learning as you go. So, interesting to see how that's going to, help you. There's so many lessons we learn in pro ball that can be applied to the college game and vice versa. Let's talk a little bit about, NSU. Talk about, your short-term, your long-term vision, the impact that you expect to have on players' lives and all that type of stuff as the head man now.
Yeah. And I'll probably say a lot of things that Brownie would say when he would talk about NSU when he was in this chair, right? It's not about the brick and mortar. It's about the people who are leading the program, right? Surround yourself with as many good people as you possibly can. So that's what I want to do. I want to surround myself, not just staff-wise, but I want the players to be good people, good students, good teammates, right? That's very, very important. The athletic department's led by Ryan Romero, who coached at Nova Southeastern the same time I was, and now he's in the AD chair. So his vision and my vision align, right? We want community involvement. We want alumni involvement. All those guys are under the umbrella of the Nova Southeastern University Shark family, and I want to bring all of them back, because wins and losses are going to be easy to determine if it's a good program or not. And that's the way I wish to be judged, by all means, right? Just look at the record. But I will judge it by how influential I am of bringing everyone back together under one umbrella, under one roof. So all of those guys from the past can come back and say, man, I went to school here, and I'm really proud of that, right? And that means we have to have the right people. We have to have follow through. Say what you mean what you say, and just continue down this course. And again, it's a point of pride, but it's the vision for the program to be at its best and work, right? It has to have everybody involved. Let's all pull in the same direction. I don't want to say, well, I played for Sonny, and I don't know those guys. I'm reaching out to them. You're going to know me, right? I played for Mike, and I feel distant. I don't hear anything. Dude, you're going to be a part of the booster program. You're going to get the schedule, right? You played for Labs, you played for Nini, you played for Brownie. Let's get them all back in. And all those guys have been really receptive. Takes a lot of work, right? Yeah. A lot of phone time, a lot of text messages, a lot of phone calls, catching up. Because again, I want them to know what's going on with me, and I want them to know what's going on with their program. So bringing them back into the fold is another way for us to judge. But I want you, I want scouts, I want, the other members of the SSC to judge us by wins and losses, but I'm going to judge the program in its totality with those things in mind.
You got so many past alumni from the Nova University days, the Nova Knights, the Mark Renevilds of the world who played for me in high school, the Danny Smiths. That was my first year as a high school coach. He was our shortstop at Miramar High. He's been an uber successful. Both guys are uber successful in law enforcement. And you got Brian Needle over at King's Academy, whose son Dalton we helped, who's at Emory now. So there's a lot of guys that that are still around that I'm sure are going to be super happy to become, more involved in the program and see where it's at and where it's going. So, all really neat stuff. Let's shift focus a little bit, Coach, to your recruiting philosophy. Let's start with what's something, whether it's a position player, picture that stands out to you, a trait, a recruitable trait for you.
It's going to be interesting, right? Because back in the day, we had, 2 or 3 channels to recruit from. Now there's 10 channels to recruit from because they can come from all over. But the nuts and bolts of it is, first and foremost, can they play? They have to be able to play the game, right? And that means, are they engaged? Do they have energy? How are they in the dugout, right? Do they care about winning? Right? All of those things are important, and you can see that, it's going to take, you have to peel back the layer to do so, but we're going to go hunt the best player that fits our program and our philosophy as a team, right? So that is kind of where we're at. Right behind me is the recruiting board, and I have 30 names up there right now, right? There's 30. There's some really big reaches up there, right? But I'm going to recruit everybody. And those are some word of mouth. Those are from JUCO coaches. Those are from guys like you have sent me, right? I want to turn over every rock, and I want to make sure that we're bringing in the people that fit the system, fit our philosophy, that are good people, good students, and willing to serve the community and all of those things. And it's hard. It's going to be difficult to figure all this stuff out. But that's what's the most exciting part about being in the chair.
Nice. Okay. So along those lines, like for you guys, what are some common mistakes that we see parents and players making today trying to get to the next level of college baseball?
Yeah. I think parents and players, they need to realize that their journey is separate from everybody else's journey, right? We're in the time where, hey, I just signed, let me go ahead and post it, right? And all of a sudden the other kid is going, oh my God, I'm losing my opportunity because I'm not going to have a shot to go play. So they get a little bit impatient, right? And then the pressure starts to build. And everyone's different. That's what they have to understand. Everyone's journey to the next level is going to be different. Don't compare yourself to your teammate or the guy that you played summer ball with. And the parents have to understand that too. They can't compare their journey with the other parents whose kids are just, hey, I just signed with this school. Congratulations. And all of a sudden, oh my God, am I late? Have I done enough for them? Right? So those things, they have to understand what their road is, I would say, right? Whatever path that is, and they have to embrace it. They have to understand the process to it, and they have to go down that road without panicking and jumping off, right?
Absolutely.
So,
and I think along those lines, Coach, we're in this era. Obviously, everybody talks about it, of instant gratification, social media. You see something, you like it, whatever the post may be or so on, and we're all guilty of it. And I know in my business, when we have a player commit, we just had one the other day, it was like a race to get the post out because everyone else was posting, and I'm like, it's exhausting. That being said, when you talk about the impatient part, it's interesting because I think parents and players don't understand, and I had to do this very discussion yesterday with a family, and it was all positive. There's a process to this. When a coach is going to bring you on to their program or consider, it's not one look. That's not how this works. It's not a camp look. It's not a video look for the most part. Now, there's extenuating circumstances from a recruiting standpoint, from a budget standpoint, and so on. But when we're talking about camp, is probably sometimes part of the process. Then we got to see a guy compete in a game situation. Then we may need to see some video and tie things together. It's not one look and here's an offer. Generally, there's always outliers, and I think you just touched on that. Patience is a virtue. Not everything you see is on social media. It's true. You know, there's a great phrase out there: compete, don't compare. Right?
Yeah.
Compete and do what you got to do, and don't compare to yourself to others. You know, sometimes when we see social media posts, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not actually a player signing a letter of intent or a scholarship or a financial aid agreement. It's a blank piece of paper, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're celebrating the player going to the next level, but sometimes it can be a little bit misleading. I want to segue into what is all this craziness of all this new legislation and everything. Let's talk about the new 5-year eligibility rule. We know, I mean, I'm reading right now, there's guys in NFL training camp that are suing to go back to go play college football because they can make more money and be a student athlete again. And I think one guy's at camp, a linebacker, and he's literally exploring that. And somebody entered the portal the other day while he's in an NFL training camp. So talk about the new 5-year eligibility rule, what that means for you as a program, what that means for Division II as a whole, in your opinion.
That new 5-for-5 is going to be really interesting, right? Because it's going to change the landscape of how we recruit. It's going to change specifically the timing in which we do so, right? I'm looking at my board right now, and I will return every position player because of the 5-for-5, excluding one, right? So now we're in a situation where I can be very selective in who I'm bringing on. And it's going to be, I would hope that we can retain our guys. But if we're doing our jobs properly, we're going to lose some guys to mid-major and Power 4 schools. And I am 100% okay with that. I am, right? But like I had a phone call with a high school coach yesterday, and he's like, hey, what are your needs? And I go, I have no idea. He goes, what do you mean? I go, everybody's coming back. I go, I need to recruit. I need to get out there, right? But one, I need to know what my current players can do and cannot do, and then start the recruiting process based on our needs. Because, Mike, if we are a regional team, I'd be a fool to change the roster.
Of course.
Right? I mean, the mix is here, right? The mix is here. So it's going to be one of those things that the new rule is going to be interesting. It's going to change the way we everybody handles the recruiting process. And it's not just Division II, it'll be Division I, right? Division I leads us, and everything kind of falls into place at the Division II,
of course, yeah.
Division III, JUCO level, right? So in essence, it should be a better brand of baseball. It could be an older brand of baseball, meaning the guys will be older and more mature, more physical, right? And then the retention rate it could be the same or worse, right? You can get really good and lose a lot of players. There's a couple, mid-major guys in Florida that I'm friends with that, they get plucked every year, right? And they're like, oh man, and I talked to this one yesterday, and I'll even say it, Dave Tollett, right? I was like, hey man, great job. He goes, what are you talking about? I go, you just lost 10 guys to Power 4s or the draft. He goes, how's that a good job? I go, you killed it, man. He goes, yeah, you're right. I did. I go, good for you. Good for you. Right? So that could be coming up for us at this level and things like that. But it will change us. We will still recruit high school. We don't really technically jump the transfer portal. You have to have money to jump in the transfer portal, right? We don't have NIL money. But JUCO will be a big thing. And those bounce back guys that we've added, I think we've added 16, 17 new players to the program in my first month.
Wow.
So we kind of flipped the roster. And there's a couple people I can thank for that. One that I'm looking at right now that helped me along the way. And there's a lot of great baseball guys out there that I trust, and you being one of them, and I know you vet your guys, right? So when you tell me that he is this person, I know it, right? The ones that I'm not too sure about, I'll vet them myself and go down the road and just peel back the
Right there, you just hit a nail on the head right there. For me, I learned very early, as a junior college coach, I got burned, taking a guy or two, and they got to campus, and it wasn't that they didn't fit. That's going to happen sometimes. They just didn't come as advertised. I was lied to. And that's one thing that I'll never do. I learned, and then I learned to trust. I took players sometimes in junior college, left-hander from Pennsylvania, catcher from Pennsylvania. I never saw them. I don't have a budget to go to Pennsylvania to see these guys, but I trusted the people. They came as advertised. That was it. And that for us, and what we do helping players, whether it's high school players, junior college players, transfer portal players, they're going to come as advertised. We're probably going to err a little bit on the side of caution, like be a little bit conservative. And we actually had a Division I pitching coach who, one of our guys became the midweek guy as a freshman, and that's what we kind of thought he could be. And he's like, "Hey, your projections were a little conservative." Yeah, I'd rather have that than there's no reason to oversell a player. And even on the pro side now, and I'm still on the pro side as well. When I hired Chris Roque, when we were at the Braves back in the Braves day, and he's a baseball guy. Like, I'd known him since he's 13 years old. He's my right-hand man in this business. And when I hired him and said, "You're going to go to all the countries I really don't want to go to right now, Nicaragua, Mexico, Panama, Colombia, and here's your budget to go sign players." And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm like, you know the game. You played, you coached, you've been around me since you're 13 years old. Like, you know what I like and just come as advertised. Not everybody you sign is going to be a big leaguer. Most are not. But if he's coming and he's supposed to be 5'10" with a plus arm, then he better be 5'10" and a plus arm. Whatever happens from there, happens from there.
Yes.
And that's no different. Well, why do we go to games as a recruiting service? Yes, to watch a player and be able to evaluate in person and not just video. We can't do that all the time because we have clients as far away as New Mexico and Texas and New Jersey and so on. But even some of those guys we'll see in the summer at a summer tournament. But the other part is I want to see, did they get to the ballpark on time? Who are they in the dugout? Are they sitting by themselves? Are they engaged in the game? Because if we're going to recommend them to a college, you said something about winning, right? Winning's part of the evaluation. Do they want to win? You can see that in a player. So tools are tools, skill set. It's part of the equation. But the other stuff in a long college season that these guys are not used to, and they're not used to playing every day and practicing 6 days a week and morning practices before afternoon classes. It's a different, you're going to be around your guys a lot. Who are you as a teammate has to factor into some of that equation as well. As far as like the high school side of this, one of the things we're running into, and I think you touched on a little bit, is, the 27 class, it's moving slow because of this type of legislation. We had two of our guys that I thought in years past would have been very easy to be either a mid-major Division I guy or a super high-end, which I consider the Sunshine State Conference, not far off from the mid-major D1s, like that kind of player. And we pushed him to junior college, even as 27s. And I will give junior college coaches credit. The Tyler Youngers out there and a lot of these guys in the Panhandle and Tim Hill at State College of Florida, I saw them out this summer. It's like shooting fish in a barrel right now. There's a lot of really good players that are still looking for opportunities. We have a few ourselves. So when those guys were offered, you need to take it. Because now you got a place to play in a really super high-end junior college, and we'll see where that leads you down the road. So the 27 class, it's being impacted. It's moving slower. There's still going to be opportunities, like you said, but you just hit the nail on the head. Your entire roster is coming back. What are your needs? Who knows? And if you get to a regional and you're making the postseason, like why would you change that formula if they're all coming back? So interesting to see how that's going to go.
Our first practice is and team meetings on the 28th, right? And I tell people, give me 22 days. Give me 22 days from the start so I know what I have so I can start recruiting for those needs, right? Why 22 days? Because 3 weeks in, they are who they are. I'll know them as a student. I'll know their work ethic. I know if they can play or not, right? But right now, I just don't know where we are in the landscape of the next recruiting cycle and what we're bringing in. Now, I'm excited to say that we will hopefully this week add an arm, right? A local guy. So that's kind of exciting. And but the other needs are still up in the air because I have a wish list on my board that I stare at every day, and we talk about this board every single day. Where are we at on X, Y, and Z, right? How much money are we anticipating leaving the books? We know the ones that the dollar amount that's leaving, especially on the pitching side, because there are some guys that are running out of eligibility, and we'll use that money first, right? But for the high school guy, and it's one of those things that high school guys don't normally impact a roster in the SSC the first year.
Correct.
Not a good roster, right? That is one of the things. So we have to balance that out a touch, because everybody likes instant pudding, right? Plug and play, right? But again, in the past 10 years ago, I would recruit anywhere between 5 and 8 high school guys, right? If I was bringing in 15, 16 guys, almost half would be high school guys. Now it's going to be probably a little smaller group that I'll bring in, just because of what's already here in the new 5-for-5 rule. But we are going to add, and then I found this out after I was hired, that I do have a roster limit. Right. Back when I was here, we had 40 guys, 42 guys. So now that I have a roster limit of 35.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So it kind of puts me in a hole. And the reason why we do have a roster limit of 35, and it's a great recruiting tool, it's 70% female at Nova Southeastern University. So so there's 18 sports, and there's, I think, 11 women's sports and 7 men's sports. So we have to make sure we're balanced that way. So I just can't have a bunch. Like if I wanted a JV team, I couldn't have a JV team because they count, right? So the roster build-up and construction is going to be a bit of a challenge. Again, it's a challenge that it's not a problem, right? There's two things. You have problems or challenges. I look at it always as a challenge and not a problem, and we just need to work effectively and turn over every stone and really peel back layers when we're bringing these guys in. And again, that's, for me, it's the building of a roster is the most important and the most fun for me to do outside of practice, because I would rather practice and miss games than go to games and miss practice, if that makes sense.
Agreed. Here.
Yeah, because I love watching guys get better. I love having a hand in getting guys better, right? Practices are mine, games are yours. Wins are yours, L's are mine. And that's the recruiting speech right there. I want you to celebrate every win. I will stay up late with all the L's. I promise you that, because I didn't do a good job. And that's on me, right? I wrote the wrong lineup and made the wrong change. I went to the bullpen too early. I went to the bullpen too late. That's on me. I want the guys to have the freedom to play and to go win baseball games, because in my mind, I will have them prepared to do so.
And that's great information for a recruit, for a player and family. As far as advice for players and parents, what's the role going to be for you guys with showcases and camps in the recruiting process, for whether it's a JUCO guy, whether it's a high school guy?
What I would tell parents and players, create a plan, know who they are, what's their identity, where do they fit in, right? I used to be a college advisor back at Flanagan when I worked under Ray Evans. And when I had a student come in, I would say, all right, we're picking 4 or 5 schools. What is your dream school? My dream school is University of Florida. Okay, great. What is your, you get to pick 2 schools that fit your budget, your academic performance, location, right? Major. You pick 2, I'm going to pick 1, but then I'm going to pick your safe school. And that could be a junior college or community college, right? So I want to make sure I can get into a place and thrive. I want that reach school, because that's the dream, right? but the middle ones are as important, because those are the ones where you can compete and where you can grow and where you can develop and where you can get your education, right? I think, and I'm biased, the SSC provides that up and down, from Rollins to Tampa to St. Leo, Barry, Lynn. All of these dudes are friends. Florida Southern, I don't want to miss anybody, right? All of these guys are good dudes, really good educations there, right? Tremendous baseball. There's a spot for everybody, but you have to have a plan your junior year or your sophomore year, right, to navigate down this road and then be realistic, right? And that's where parents have to come in and say, hey, look, I get it. You want to go here, right? And if they give you, I want to go to this private school down south of us that's a D1 and a Power 4, it costs $70,000 to go to school there. You're going to be on the hook for loans for $30,000 a year. Are you willing to do that? Because as a parent, I can't afford it, right? So mom and dad, right, advisor has to be able to say, hey, look, this is what the cost is. Is it worth the squeeze, right? So, and those are things that they have to think about when they're going down this road. And it's not about this. It's not about the logo. It's about the fit, right? Don't chase the logo, chase the fit. Everybody wants to.
Say that one more time for us so the parents can hear that, please.
Don't chase the logo, chase the fit. Where do you best fit academically, physically, the compete factor, right? That is where you're going to have the most success, get the most gains, is when you realize who you are and where you fit. This becomes secondary. The logo becomes secondary, right? Because when you're here, you're the guy. You're the guy, right? When you're someplace else, are you a fill-in? Are you replaceable, right? At the D2 level, we can't, made a mistake, let's get rid of, right? Okay. I have 7.4 scholarships. I have a roster of 35. So we got to be right more than we're wrong. And after this year, right, this class that I brought in, if we're wrong, that's on me, because these are the guys that I brought in. That's mine, and I'll wear it, and I will honor. Hey, I signed you. You're graduating from here. You could, even if you hit 200 and you don't get to play a ton, right? I'm going to coach you the same way I coach everybody else, but I made a mistake. But it's not your mistake, mom, dad, player. That was mine. I shot the moon and I missed, or I couldn't develop you. There was something wrong there. So I will honor that, right? And I just have to be going back to the pro model, right? You want to mitigate risk. I heard that from the day I got on board with the D-backs. Yeah. We got to mitigate risk. We got to check these boxes. Well, I took that from the pro side to here. We got to mitigate risk, right? Because of the financial constraints that we have at the Division II level. And again, it's a challenge, not a problem. So we have to make sure we're getting the right people in, and we have an idea of what it looks like, right? And I always start with good person, good student, good teammate. We'll take care of the rest, right? Because you're here for a reason. Now we develop you. And our development is going to be not a cookie cutter approach. It's going to be per player. We need to do this. You can't do this. Let's work on that a little bit, right? But the flip side of it, and I learned this from the Arizona Diamondbacks as well, is that if you do this well, let's see if we can make this that, opposed to working on just the things you can't do well. Because if we focus on that too much, then all of a sudden we don't do those things that we did very well anymore. So we really want to harp on that part of it too. Their development is to make what they do well better. And that should eat up some of the negative stuff, right? So again, that's kind of under the hood of what we talk about the recruiting process when we're here with talking to families. And I will tell them, you're here to graduate. We just lost a player, TJ, okay? Never met him, talked to him on the phone. I bumped into him when he was going into rehab, he was trying to rehab his elbow. And I told him, you're going in there and you might get some bad news. But understand, I'm not taking your money. You're going to graduate and you're going to be a Shark forever. He goes, Coach, are you serious? I go, you have my word on that.
Yeah, it's not the norm.
I go, you have my word on that. And he goes, Coach, I don't even know what to say. I go, say you're going to graduate. He goes, I'm going to graduate. I go, that's a W. That's a win. The wins that I talked about on the outside, not just a win-loss record, that's a win. Nobody can see it, but I can. That's a W for for Nova Southeastern and the Sharks. And awesome. He's going to graduate. He promised. That's the advice I would give to parents, right? Make sure it's the right fit. Don't chase the logo. Chase the experience. Chase the education, because that's the thing that's going to remain the same. And you know this more than anybody. The hang, right? This is a brownieism. I'm going to give you another brownieism. The hang is the most important thing. I'm still in a group chat with the guys from FIU.
Wow.
Right? I'm still in a group chat with the guys from the championship team.
You know, you talk about that. So my last 2 years as a high school coach before I went into college coaching at Broward Community College, it's 98, 99 teams. Both teams made the state championship game. Both teams, one was a heartbreaking loss to our rival, Key West, the 98 team, which I actually got a little emotional in the press conference afterwards, and that's not my personality. I just felt so bad for the kids. Yeah. And then in 99, we ran into a juggernaut in the state championship, and we were nationally ranked and all, and we got beat again. Those guys got a hold of me through Chris Roque, and they're all coming over to the house a week from Saturday for a little 98, 99 reunion. We're going to talk about how great we were and all those great stories and all, and they're all successful adults, which is the whole point, right?
And that's a win for you, Coach. Yeah. That's a win for you, right? Everyone's going to think, oh man, we didn't win the championship, but now you're going to reap the benefits of being a good coach and a good mentor, because all these guys are going to be back there with their kids and they're going to be like, oh my God, man, dude, we nailed it. We nailed it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. You know, so we'll start to wrap this up a little bit. Again, I know it's a really busy time, and we really appreciate you coming, parents and players, learning it. You're at 27. You just learned things are going to move a little bit slower. Have a plan. Be patient. You know, the transition of trying to get to, you know, I tell our families all the time, Coach Cruz, is it's a great time to be a college student athlete in any sport at any level.
Yeah.
It's the hardest time for a high school student athlete to get into the fraternity or sorority, right? You just, and the number one thing is find that right fit. You talked about that. Chase the logo, find the right fit. I think some points of emphasis here, you know, for families out there, players and families out there, a couple of things that really stick out. You know, you're talking about a coach who, you know, talks about Florida Gulf Coast. And we actually have a transfer portal guy who's at Florida Gulf Coast, Gio Hernandez, a local kid who's going to go over there and play a corner outfield spot for those guys after he transferred from a Division II in Georgia. Dave and those guys did a great job. We grew up in the game together as coaches. We're all high school coaches at one point and moved over to college. I went on the pro side. They've done a tremendous job over there. You said something along those lines where, and we know I've talked about this privately, where, hey, we may lose some guys to some Division I's because we have a development plan. That's, you know, that was one of my questions today. You answered that without having asked. You have a development plan, and you're actually going to embrace that. And we talked about that with a couple particular recruits, that if that happens, that's okay. Like that's part of the gig today, and but because you're developing players, that may happen, whether it's playing a 4-year university, another 4-year university in the fall, a Division I, to showcase some of those guys. Parents and players, that's, and I'm going to tell you this from experience, that's not the norm. But that's who this program is, and that's what they are about. I'll say this: I'm very careful in who I select when we bring a guest onto the recruiting roundtable. I want it to tap all divisions, and we have one more division left, which is Division One. But when we're choosing people, there's reasons for it. There's connections, and the number one question for me is always going to be, if I were a parent, can I lay my head on the pillow with whom I'm turning over my son or daughter to? If it's softball, if it's baseball, whatever it may be. You can clearly see that coming through here. You can lay your head on the pillow at night knowing your son's in good hands if he's fortunate enough to go play for Coach Cruz and his staff at Nova Southeastern. You got the direction of Ryan Romero, fellow Chaminade Lion. We go back a long time as well. So there's just so many things that line up here it's going to be really fun to watch the future successes of this program, and then bringing back the old time guys, the Danny Smiths and the Grenevelds, and maybe even Norbert Lopez. Some of them.
Burroughs is a guy over in the Bahamas.
Yeah. Burroughs and Sands. I see those guys all the time in the Bahamas.
A kid who worked with Burroughs in the Bahamas came into my office and he dropped his name. I was like, dude, I'm going to do everything I can to get you on the roster.
That's awesome.
I'll leave everybody with one story, and I promise I'll be quick. The very first player I ever signed, Caven Thompson, right? He came to a camp. He came to us from the Stewart area as a second baseman. Great student, incredible person, great family, great parents. The family dynamic was off the charts. He may have played 4 innings at second base for us. I didn't give him $1 of baseball money, not $1. And he was with us for 4 years and he graduated. He was our starting right fielder on the championship team. And he was the first person I called.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. That's the impact you make on people's lives, and vice versa. They make impacts in our lives as well. That's
exactly right.
That's the thing. So, Coach, thank you so much for your time today. We're all the community is really excited for you and Nova Southeastern and the staff. I'll give you one more quick story before we finish, because it shows you what I know about this conference and the level of play. We have a client whose dream is to play for Nova Southeastern, and there's reasons for that outside of baseball. There's a dental school, right? Nova has a postgraduate program. My wife is an optometrist and a graduate of Nova Southeastern's optometry school. I've got a niece there now. Brother-in-law is involved in that part of the program as well. He's an optometrist, but again, we have to be very honest and talk about fit. Buddy, you're not ready to play at Nova Southeastern. You're not. We're going to put you in a junior college. Use transfer from 4-year school. We're going to put you in a junior college where you can go play, impact the roster, get bigger, get stronger, put up some numbers. There's some things that are going to be required for you to potentially even be recruited at that level. And I just thought that was really cool. Like, he's like, but your pathway to get there, it may take you to Maryland in a junior college, which is where he's at. And
straight lines are very rare.
Very rare today. But if it all comes full circle for him and he develops, because the student's there, he's a really good student. If he develops as a baseball player, maybe it all comes full circle. So parents understand, because of the way that the landscape's set up, straight lines are very rare. I'm going to write that down. That's a great phrase. I always talk about the pathway may take you different ways. And for our guys, we have plan A, B, and C always when we onboard a client. It's the dream school, it's the realistic school, and then if everything else fails, we know we have a safe haven here, academically, geographically. So, to hear you talk about those types of things is pretty cool. Again, looking forward to the future here. Looking forward to seeing you guys play. I'll be out at some games myself, of course, and thank you very much for your time, Coach. We really appreciate it here at the Recruiting Roundtable. And you got a lot of people in your corner here that know you're going to be successful over there, and really looking forward to it. So thank you very much again for taking the time out in the first week of school.
Coach, thank you for the time. Thank you for your support and your mentorship. It means a lot to me. And like I said, I might be the face on the cover, but there's so many things around me and good people around me, you included, Ryan Romero, all of these people are going to be a part of what we do moving forward. And I can't wait to get started.
Awesome. Parents, players, enjoy this episode. We put some clips out and put the full thing out. There's a lot to like and a lot to learn. Thank you so much, Coach Cruz, and best of luck to the Sharks this year.
Go Sharks.
That's a wrap on this week's edition of the Recruiting Roundtable. Join us next time as we continue to guide athletes and their parents on the recruiting process on and off the diamond.